Springfield's Talk 1041 and a good Monday morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. Pyramid Roofing Company Talk at text line 447 KSGF. You cannot have a culture in which one whole half of the culture, if you will, or at least it seems even more than half, with the megaphone that the left has controlling the media, and constantly refer to political opposition as Nazis, constantly refer to an individual, that being Donald Trump, as Hitler, as Mussolini. You cannot continue to falsely claim that he says Nazis are very fine people and then just be shocked whenever somebody tries to do something about it. Sadly, the second assassination attempt on Trump yesterday was in no way, shape, or form a surprise to me. I mean, you listen to the things that are said about Donald Trump, and imagine if you believed them, as some people do. You hear people on MSNBC claiming that they're going to be round up. Rachel Maddow is one of them, saying if Donald Trump gets elected president, he's going to put her in jail. You have Democrats out there claiming that Trump is going to put gay people in jail. He's going to be rounding them up. All the while, of course, while it is Trump that they are attempting to put in prison, but that's separate from this conversation. But you and I know how absurd it is, but who's going to believe something like that? Someone who is detached from reality. And people who are detached from reality oftentimes do things like try to kill people in which they have these paranoid delusions about. How often is it you hear a story about, someone, they kill their own children because they hear voices telling them that the kids are evil? Well, the voices talking about Trump are very real voices, and they're put in positions that have traditionally been considered positions of authority when it comes to information. That's the news media. I mean, have you ever sat and watched or listened to MSNBC? If you haven't done it, I'm not going to suggest that you do, but if you do want to get insight into what it is that people on the left are subject to on a daily basis, I think you might be shocked. You recognize, that they hate Trump, that they have a level, again, of paranoid delusions when it comes to Donald Trump. But it is shocking when you listen to some of the things that these people say. And then the real frustration is knowing that there are Americans out there who believe what they're saying. You've got to be out of your mind to think that there won't be someone who takes them at their word on this stuff. I mean, just in the past week, I've got some audio I'll play. MSNBC has experts on saying that Trump is exactly like Hitler. Trump is exactly like Mussolini. And that he must be stopped. 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 Over and over and over again. And then when a supporter, a follower who believes the rhetoric of the left attempts to do what it is that they felt they are called to do, oh boy, you got Joe Biden out there who just this Saturday told a black audience, once again, talked about, he compared Trump and Republicans to Klans persons, and I've got audio I'll play from this event. It was I think it was a congressional, or some black caucus, I believe in Phoenix. It was out of Arizona, I believe. telling this audience filled with people that their right to vote was being taken away, that their freedoms were going to be taken away if Donald Trump gets back in power. Then he comes out after the assassination attempt, second one, and, oh, I've said it before, I'll say it again, there's no place in this country for violence. By the way, did I mention that Hitler might be the next president unless someone does something about it? Ultimately, people are responsible for their own actions. But if you lie to people over and over and over again, and you have the media lying to people over and over and over again, and somebody takes action because they believe your lies, you cannot wash your hands of that and say, hey, no, I don't support that sort of thing at all. No, this is horrible. While continuing to pour gasoline on the fire. And then, of course, we've already seen, it's MSNBC, one of the networks, that Trump's the one who needs to, crank down the rhetoric a bit. Oh, okay. So blaming the victim. Springfield's Talk 1041, Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 79. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 62. And for your Tuesday and Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
All right, coming up, what we know about the shooter, also some of your text messages, really, really great ones. One, in fact, like, how did this guy know Trump would be there? And I did hear a report yesterday afternoon, though. These reports, as they come out, oftentimes it's hearsay, and so oftentimes it doesn't necessarily end up being the truth. But at one point, it was being reported that a very small circle of individuals knew that Trump was going to be there that day. So how is it this guy? How did he know? And apparently, he was lying in wait, the way that it sounds. They say that the Secret Service caught him as they were a couple of holes ahead of Trump. So in other words, Trump is on hole 9, they would be on 10 or 11, scouting the place out, and that is when they found him. So how did this seemingly random individual know that Donald Trump was going to be there? This guy has a very bizarre background from what we're learning so far. And I would argue, just again, it's very preliminary, that this is exactly the sort of person that buys into the rhetoric of Donald Trump being evil, Donald Trump being Hitler and must be stopped at all costs. He appears, based off of interviews there are interviews floating around when he went over to Afghanistan, and he believed that it was necessary to help essentially lead saving the world, if you will, that he was going over there to try to recruit people. He felt as if, he's one of these, has these, apparently, the way it sounds, these visions of grandeur, and this one guy can save the world, and at one point that was going to be in Afghanistan. And so he was apparently, according to different articles, well before. I mean, this guy has been written about over the past couple of years, apparently, and New York Times and Newsweek, I think, did an interview with him because of his involvement in Afghanistan and trying to recruit people because he in order to fight, because he felt this is good versus evil, this is the light versus the dark. And that is the exact sort of person, when they hear the news anchor or a president or a vice president talking about how he is going to destroy democracy. They buy into that stuff.
Didn't he also do the same thing in Ukraine as well?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant Ukraine. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Ukraine. Thank you for that. He was trying to recruit at one point soldiers from Afghanistan to come into Ukraine, as well as a
Okay.
number of, yeah. Thank you for that correction. It was Ukraine that there's been a number of interviews surrounding that. And this is the sort of person that, again, just on the surface, when you look at what he's involved himself in, kind of feels like you get the sense that perhaps he sees himself as this superhero who is destined in order to prevent evil from succeeding, and he inserts himself in those manners, or in those matters. And again, very early on, but one can't help but wonder if that's exactly he felt. He's saving our country, saving democracy. All right, I've grabbed a number of different sources here to try to patch together what information has become available regarding the second would-be assassin of Donald Trump. John Solomon from Just the News, the latest there, noting that Secret Service agents disrupted the second assassination attempt on Trump's life in 2 months, but difficult questions remain on how a would-be assassin with an AK-47 rifle got within 500 yards of the former president while he was golfing, and why anti-Trump vitriol in America rages on. The Sunday incident at Trump's golf course near Mar-a-Lago drew new calls for civility and repudiations of political violence as authorities announced they had arrested a 58-year-old man who reportedly took a deep interest in the Ukraine war. The episode also sparked new calls for investigations into the ability of the Secret Service to protect candidates from Congress to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Quote, "The people deserve the truth about the would-be assassin and how he was able to get within 500 yards of the former president and current GOP nominee." Congress, of course, already investigating Secret Service because of the utter and complete failures in Pennsylvania. Authorities said a Secret Service agent disrupted the assassination attempt as he was scouting out the next hole where Trump planned to play golf around 2 p.m. Sunday, and saw a man with the barrel of a gun protruding from the bushes between 400 and 500 yards from the green. Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw said the man was hiding in the bushes on the perimeter of Trump International Golf Course. When a Secret Service agent took action, he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual. The man fled in a car, but was stopped quickly by local law enforcement without incident. In nearby Martin, Florida, the AK-47 was found near the bushes where the initial encounter occurred. The FBI and Secret Service said they are investigating the incident as an assassination attempt, which I don't think there's any great dispute over that. All right, so a couple of questions, and these are, I don't know if these are questions we'll find the answer to or not, but they are natural questions. How was the assassin able to drive 40 miles before being caught? Now, I'm not sure. I'm not saying that it wasn't 40 miles. I don't know how far it was. But some of the early reporting was that there was some random person that saw this individual, I guess, getting into the car, noted whatever was going on, that it was suspicious, and took a picture of the vehicle and the license plate, and that was then entered into the system. And that's how they knew to look for this vehicle with this license plate and already had information on the guy. Now, that was something that was being talked about yesterday as all part of this unfolding. Another pertaining to President Trump being shot at again. Why? And I don't know that it doesn't sound like he got a shot off. There were in the beginning reports of gunfire, but it sounds as if potentially now it was just Secret Service that was firing upon the would-be gunman, though, of course, that may still be somewhat murky. But the point of the text here asking, why wasn't there several drones in the air covering the entire outdoor area for a bird's eye view for persons with a gun? Sophisticated drones with excellent cameras are available at Amazon for $500 a pop. So there's no excuse for Secret Service not to have at least 3 in the air at all times covering the outdoors where President Trump is. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. It was noted during the press conference that when law enforcement was asked how far away was this, and they said at the time 200 to 500 yards, and he noted that that's not very far. That given the weapon that he had and just the entire layout of things, that was not very far at all. Another text, I would imagine this morning you'll be discussing the second assassination attempt. There's something really bothering me that I haven't heard anybody as of yet and would like your opinion on. How would the shooter have known to make his plans for yesterday? Trump is typically on the road during rallies, and I would not think, especially since the first attempt on his life, that there is any promotion to him being on that golf course, and it just makes me wonder how he figured he could count on Trump being there unless somebody inside potentially fed him the info. I typically wouldn't think this way, but after watching all of these hearings with regards to the first attempt, I also have a hard time fathoming that they could be this incompetent, have walked away from it feeling that there's more to it than incompetence. Would love to hear a different point of view. It's going to be interesting to see what position the Secret Service takes on this, because I could see them saying, hey, we did do a good job. We did what we were supposed to do. The Secret Service agent, that's exactly what he was doing. He was a hole ahead of Trump. He was scoping out the area, and when they saw him, they engaged him, and that is a job well done. Now, I suppose others would seemingly rightfully note that he was within shooting distance. So, if he was 400 or 500 yards from Trump at that moment, then that seems like a job failure. I also would imagine that the Secret Service probably be well served to not try and make it sound like that they did a good job or make excuses, because at this point, I mean, the American people are just, I think most people are done with it, and just tired of what appears to be this utter and complete incompetence. And you put it in the context of everything else with this administration, whether it is the withdrawal of Afghanistan or allowing a Chinese spy balloon to travel all across this country, hovering over sensitive areas of our country and not being shot down until all of the information had been sent to Beijing. Just off the top of my head, a few of these instances. And it's just one display of total and utter incompetence after another. Now, in regards to, again, how did this guy know that Trump was going to be there? That is going to be very interesting to find out. I'm sure this is part of the conversation that's occurring. This guy, based off just the very preliminary information that's put out there, does not seem to be the sort of guy that's going to clam up, but feel that he's totally justified. Now, this is all speculation, just based off of again, what little information there is about him, but I get the feeling he could potentially be the sort of person that feels he was doing the right thing and has absolutely no problem explaining how it was that he came to determine that that was the best place to try to get Trump. He's from, but currently living in Hawaii. So did he just fly or make his way to Florida and just been waiting there thinking, well, Mar-a-Lago, I mean, that golf course, surely he'll be there at some point, and just sort of hanging around that area until it appeared as if Donald Trump was going to be golfing? Or was there some tip-off to this individual? Most people, including the person who sent the text in, would note, I know that sounds crazy, but I don't know in this day and age, given what we have seen our government do in order to try and prevent Trump from being president, in order to try and overthrow his presidency while he was serving, and everything that they have been doing in order to prevent him from getting reelected, I don't think that while some things may be extremely unlikely, you can completely write them off, because they just have demonstrated, and by they, I mean the forces that want to prevent the American people from choosing Donald Trump once again to be president of the United States, have demonstrated that they are absolutely hysterical. They really, truly have a Trump derangement syndrome. I think that they believe their own hype, that as crazy as it is, people who have paranoid delusions can convince themselves of things that the rest of us as outside observers think you have to be out of your mind. There's no evidence whatsoever to demonstrate that. There's nothing grounded in reality about what it is that they believe, but they believe it. And this is how paranoid delusion impacts people and infects people. And I just don't think that, given that level of paranoia and psychotic hatred that so many of these people have for Donald Trump, that you can completely dismiss the possibility that there are more than one individuals at play here. I'm going to play some audio that was uploaded of the would-be assassin trying to, it looked like it was on a college campus, recruit individuals to take down the system. Traffic update and then your text messages, plenty of them regarding the second assassination attempt of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, it is in no way, shape, or form surprising the level of paranoid delusion just over this past weekend. On Saturday, the day before, President Biden was at an event telling black people that their vote, Trump was going to take away their freedoms, take away their right to vote. He was referred to as Hitler and Mussolini by a commentator on MSNBC. He was accused of being a domestic terrorist. I believe that was also on MSNBC. And one of those was from a sitting member of Congress. So all of that audio coming up, plus audio of the assassin. There's a couple of different bits of audio. Some are interviews that he did. I believe one was with Newsweek. It was a video interview a couple of years ago with his efforts in Ukraine. He appears to be a person that believes that he can make a difference on a grand scale when it comes to good versus evil, which would fit the bill for somebody who believes the rhetoric about Donald Trump and then take it into his own hands to try to assassinate him. But a bit of audio that was uploaded by someone on, I think it was his YouTube channel, in which he had an interaction with the would-be assassin on a college campus as he was trying to recruit people to take down the system. So all that coming up. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 79. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 62. For your Tuesday and on Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
Before I get around to some of your additional text messages, I wanted to read to you from the Daily Mail. They apparently Daily Mail does a very good job of getting to things that others may not think to, or bringing things to the forefront that are 24 hours before everyone else in the news cycle somehow. And given that it's out of the UK, it's interesting that so often they are the first ones to report on things going on in the US. And they're reporting an exclusive interview with the son of Ryan Wesley Routh, who is the would-be assassin, and they note that the son of Ryan Wesley Routh, the man named as the suspect in a possible assassination attempt near Donald Trump's Florida golf club on Sunday, has said that his father is not a violent person, didn't believe that he even owned a gun. His son, Orrin Routh, reached by the Daily Mail shortly after Sunday's shooting, said this was the first he had heard about the alleged assassination attempt. Quote, "This is the first that I've heard about it," the 35-year-old exclusively told dailymail.com, "was my father shot or injured." He said that his father hates Trump, as, quote, "every reasonable person does. I don't like Trump either," the son added. This is what I'm talking about. It is almost as if, well, yeah, everybody hates him. This is the paranoid, delusional mindset that has been crafted with so many Americans. But he said that his dad is not a violent person and could not believe that his father would target the president. Quote, "He's my dad, and he's had a couple of traffic tickets as far as I know," the son said. "That's crazy. I know my dad and love my dad, but that's nothing like him." The former president was rushed to safety on Sunday after multiple shots were fired in the vicinity while he was playing golf at his club in West Palm Beach. Routh said his father, who had no military experience, said that he had traveled to Ukraine following Russia's 2022 invasion to help volunteer and provide aid to those affected. Routh moved to Hawaii a few years back, was living with his longtime girlfriend. He said that he didn't know that his father was even in Florida. Quote, "He said he was at the beach, but I thought that meant the Outer Banks in Hawaii. I didn't ask him for more information because we had had a falling out. We've grown apart." The son wouldn't explain the nature of the falling out, but still spoke highly of his father. "He's not a violent person. He's a hard worker and a great dad. He's a great dude, a nice guy, and has worked his whole blanking life." Asked whether his father owned a gun, he replied, "Not that I know of. I've never known him to own a gun or known him to do anything bat blank like this," the son added. He said his father works as a general contractor building small homes in Hawaii, previously owned a roofing company. He abruptly ended the call, saying he needed to inquire about what actually happened with his father. Later, in a rambling text, Routh appeared to justify his father's actions. Quote, "I hate this game every 4 years and think that we all do. And if my father wants to be a martyr to how broken and disassociated the process has become from the real problems and practical solutions, then that's his choice. I'm not saying that what he's done or I'm not saying that's what he has done or what he's about. That's just my own rant, being fed up with all of it my entire life." South Park said it best: "Every 4 years we're forced to choose between a turd sandwich and a giant douche, and it all stays blanked in the same ways by different degrees, and we're exhausted and embarrassed by it all." The suspect ran from the trees, was spotted by a witness who snapped a picture of his vehicle, a black Nissan, which included the license plate, before he drove away. And so that is eventually how they would catch him. So that is an apparent interview with his son. That this idea that it's perfectly normal to hate Donald Trump, to dehumanize him to the point that an attempt to take his life is presented as really no big deal. You really got a sense of this with the debate last week, or the week before, whichever. Was that last week or the week before the debate? It was
Oh
the
my
week
gosh.
before, wasn't it?
No, I think
No,
it
was
was
it last week? Yeah, that's right, because you were gone the first part, yeah. Where they spent all of this time on January 6th, but not a mention of the assassination attempt of Trump. And, of course, they spread disinformation about Trump's involvement on January 6th. Kamala Harris lying to the American people, claiming that he directed his followers to go storm the Capitol. It's amazing. None of that audio exists, of course. Only audio of him telling people that if they are going to protest, do it peacefully and patriotically. And it's all in the context of the peaceful transition of power. This is why there's such a focus on it, because it's about who we are as a nation, the ability to freely choose the person that we want to be president of the United States, and the fact that there's a peaceful transfer of power. Well, the assassination of one of the two candidates is a bit disruptive in that capacity, yet no mention of it during the debate. Particularly given that Kamala Harris is part of the administration that is in charge of the Secret Service that failed so miserably in Pennsylvania just a couple of months ago. That it was this administration that refused, despite what Joe Biden is out there claiming, refused to give the additional requested security coverage by Trump's specific handlers within the Secret Service. And the reason that it wasn't brought up during the debate, I don't believe that it was because they wanted people to forget about it so much, as I just think that they didn't think it was that big of a deal. Well, he kind of has it coming attitude. And I think that they, too, aren't surprised that there's an attempt, and now two, on his life. But in their minds, it's, blame the victim. It's like telling the rape victim, maybe you shouldn't have worn such a short skirt. Claiming that even after the attempt on MSNBC, well, Donald Trump, he's the one who needs to bring down the rhetoric a couple clicks. Harris issues a statement. She's deeply disturbed. Oh, are you? This is the not-so-coy game that we hear from Democrats where, well, of course we condemn this sort of violence, but let's spend the next hour talking about how Donald Trump, if he gets back into the White House, it will be the destruction of this country. And the only way to save our country is if somebody stops him. So let's talk about that for a while. Text messages, a lot, but not all. See, some are more radical than others. A lot of military lovers of Ukraine became fixated on the Ukraine-Russia war. They are convinced that Trump would be the death for Ukraine. They do not, in my opinion, have a balance of what the threats to the United States actually are. Another noting the assassination attempt will just be swept under the rug. We'll not hear another word. Text message reading the guy's going to get Epsteined. Not enough coffee when I commented on YouTube, but what makes you think that the media isn't trying very hard to get Trump assassinated? When are the Republicans going to start calling out the Democrats for these actions? Doesn't this guy have the same last name as the guy that ran over Springfield police officer Mark? Yeah, he actually does. I think that guy's name was, I'm sure there's no connection there, but they do share the same last name. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs. Financing is available as well. The crushing blow Bidenomics has leveled upon lower and middle income people in particular in this country. Sometimes getting that fix isn't as easy as it was 4 or 5 years ago. That's why they do offer financing options for you. You can learn about those. Just ask them. You don't have to have the best credit in the world in order to take advantage of that. And then you can look at the landscape, decide if it's a wise financial decision for you to make. That's A1 Custom Car Care. There are a number of videos that are popping up that are it regards the would-be assassin of Donald Trump, second one. And some are regarding his time in Ukraine, in which he went there. He said apparently that he offered to fight, but you don't really fit the bill for that, I think largely because of his age and the fact that he had absolutely no military experience whatsoever. And so he went there in order to essentially try to help recruit. And there's a lot of information coming out about his level of involvement. There have been some pieces written in years past that reference him as part of this network of people that are trying to recruit individuals. This is audio that somebody had posted that appears to be him outside what I believe is a university campus trying to recruit individuals to essentially take down the system.
The Ukrainians have a right to fight back.
I don't do paper, though.
I don't care if you do paper or not. I'm looking for revolutionaries. I'm looking for people who want to take this whole system down.
Bro, I'm a veteran. Like, do you need me?
What kind of veteran are you?
Bro, I served in Nuketown.
Well, I think it's better to serve and fight in the powers, taking over the system.
Bro, give me a Glock and a Hellcat.
Take a look at that.
Bro, but I don't do paper, though. I just told
Come
you
on,
that.
dude, then get away. We don't need people who aren't serious. If you're not serious,
I'm serious, but I don't do paper, bro. You're literally killing the environment.
we're moving on. You go ahead, have your lunch.
No, bro, I'm going to class. I'm a scholar.
Oh, you can perhaps take a little bit from his approach there. He was handing out flyers, trying to recruit individuals that could fight. He references Ukraine, but he does talk about just taking the whole system down, whatever he means by that. But you can hear that the individual that he approaches to try and recruit there, he's trying to hand him paper. He doesn't want to take paper because he says he doesn't do paper because it destroys the environment. So you got, a left-winger versus a left-winger here. You can hear that he just has no use for this individual because this individual doesn't understand how important this is. So he's just dismissive of him. He is of no worth, of no value to this individual who is trying to recruit for this cause. And again, that seems like the sort of personality that would be very susceptible to trying to take out somebody that he believes is going to, quote, end democracy as we know it. These personality traits of being hyper fixated on good versus evil. And if you are not willing to drop everything and sacrifice everything in order to fight for the cause, then you are just in the way. And you could just get that sense in his dismissive nature of this veteran that seemed interested in what he was wanting to talk about, but simply because he wouldn't take the flyer from him, you could hear he got aggravated. You could hear the emotion in there, frustrated, and tell him, "Fine, just go eat your lunch then." I don't want, he wants nothing to do with him, and people like that. It is not difficult to convince them to, quote, save the world by taking out a president. The Federalist had a piece from Jordan Boyd. Dems didn't lower the temp between Trump assassination attempts, noting that former President Donald Trump survived yet another assassination attempt yesterday when a man allegedly armed with a scoped AK-47 style rifle aimed at the Republican from the bushes of the Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach. When an assassin first attempted to take Trump's life at Butler, Pennsylvania at the rally in July, Democrats and media everywhere overlooked their roles in stoking the flames of hatred against Trump and his supporters to insist that Americans must, quote, lower the temperature. Even Trump getting struck in the ear by a bullet meant to permanently remove him from the 2024 presidential race, however, wasn't enough to deter the Blue Party and their pro-lawfare allies from doubling down on their violent rhetoric after only a few days, if not hours. Instead of abandoning the assassination prep campaign that put Trump in danger in the first place, Democrats used the days following his fatal campaign event to further smear the potential future president as the, quote, next Hitler and a, quote, threat to democracy, a primary spreader of fascism, and an existential danger to the nation. Just days after he demanded in an Oval Office address that everyday Americans lower the temperature in our politics, President Joe Biden used his sit-down with NBC's Lester Holt to falsely accuse Trump of once again calling a group of white supremacist neo-Nazis in Charlottesville, quote, very fine people. This pattern continued well into the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in August, where the party entertained and amplified incendiary rhetoric about Trump, his voters, and his policies. Speakers, the propaganda press, and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris alike repeatedly lied about Trump in an attempt to paint him as a political enemy number one. By September's presidential debate, Trump warned the nation from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia that he, quote, probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me, end quote. They talk about me being a threat to democracy, he remarked. They're the threat to democracy. That same night, less than 1 week ago, the vice president wrongfully accused Trump of inciting the January 6th Capitol riot. Harris claims that Trump encouraged people to, quote, attack and desecrate the halls of Congress, despite its erroneous nature, went unchecked by the ABC News debate moderators and the rest of the corporate media. If Democrats in the media, who took their calls for partisan peace at face value, meant what they said, they would have called out and corrected the inflammatory behavior plaguing the party. Instead, they continued their campaign to trick Americans into believing Trump should not be allowed to hold office. Even after Sunday's events, media like NBC News were working overtime to pretend Trump, who has called attention to the Democrats' role in facilitating the nation's border crisis in recent weeks, is the true partisan provocateur. This second assassination attempt may be yet another example of the stunning failures and corruption plaguing the current regime, but it is no surprise, considering Democrats' commitment to fanning the political flames. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. An observation from the Pyramid Roofing Company Talk and Text line. If it were not for an alert citizen who took a picture of the getaway vehicle, this traitor would-be assassin would have gotten away. Similar to the citizens who yelled at the top of their lungs that there's a gunman on the roof, which helped alert the sleeping Secret Service so that the sharpshooter could take out the assassin. And, of course, you can't really necessarily say for sure whether this individual would or would not have been caught. But this is yet again where it was a citizen that certainly that observance is what led to the capture, in this case, of the latest would-be assassin. Kansas Territory BrewingCo.com is the site for beers such as Bradford Light, Pineapple Life Coach, things wrapping up for the season, Hammond's Field, the location in Springfield in which you can pick up one of those beers, but they will be hitting the shelves before too long. If you see the billboards out and about, this is part of their introduction into the Springfield market, brought to you by Show Me Beverage. It's Kansas Territory BrewingCo.com. The rhetoric of the left, they do not tone it down when the results of it play out before our eyes, and that is yet again another assassination attempt on Trump. After the first one, it's almost as if they thought, well, we didn't quite get it done, so we need to really start doubling down. The following is just hours before the second assassination attempt. Actually, this one, I'm going to move the order on these things here. This is an MSNBC guest. And this is the day before. This is Saturday on MSNBC.
Give me your response to what Donald Trump is doing.
It is outrageous. It's horrifying, but it's expected from a fascist authoritarian person who wants to create havoc in this country, who wants to take us to Nazi Germany. I can't even talk, Nazi Germany. We exported racism, fascism to Nazi Germany. We exported it to South Africa, Jonathan. We know how to do it. We're good at it. And let's not pretend that Donald Trump isn't exactly like Mussolini, exactly like Hitler.
Exactly like Mussolini, exactly like Hitler. This is in reference to Trump. This is somewhat of a repeat of 2016, in which we're talking about the issue of illegal immigration. And the way that people like this commentator on MSNBC presents it is that there is no issue with illegal immigration. Trump is making this up. He's stirring it all up. When, in fact, what has occurred with Springfield, Ohio, as well as just the border itself back in 2015 when he was running, is he was listening to people. He was listening to American citizens. And he was responding to them. Back in 2015, he recognized that this was a very serious problem on our horizon. It was already a problem. He saw what it was going to lead to. And he was listening to people, particularly those that lived along the border, and he was becoming their megaphone. That is what is happening in Springfield, Ohio as well. As you know, maybe you don't know, depending on how closely you've been following this, but all of this began when videos were circulating online at the local council meetings in Springfield, Ohio, where citizens were coming forth demanding answers because of the tens of thousands of Haitians that were dropped in their town, of like 48,000. I mean, aside from the fact that these are, Haitians dropping 30, 10 to the numbers vary. But when you increase a population size by 30% roughly, regardless of where the individuals come from, this is going to be problematic because you just are not equipped to handle those sorts of people. Well, you add to it, of course, the fact that you have a number of these individuals that culturally they're different. They are not assimilated into the American way of life, and that compounds the problem. And so this is why people were showing up at council meetings upset because the city, in their assessment, is not only not doing anything about it, but making the problem worse. Which is why it's particularly humorous when the fact checkers at these networks go and talk to the city leaders to get their answers and claim that these allegations aren't true. Well, part of the problem that the citizens have are the fact that the city leaders continue to deny what's going on there. And so much like folks that in particular, again, those who owned land, lived in some of these border towns, border cities, where Trump wasn't making stuff up about border issues that then the people who lived on the border were like, oh, I didn't know this was a problem, and Trump getting them all stirred up. Trump was their megaphone. And Trump has become, and J.D. Vance, the megaphone of the frustrated citizens in Ohio who are being ignored. Ignored by their local city, largely, ignored by the media, and accused of spreading disinformation and lies. And so the attempt here, of course, and this you heard from the guest on MSNBC, saying that that Trump is no different than Hitler. He is exactly like Hitler, exactly like Mussolini. Well, once again, if you are somebody who suffers from paranoid delusions, from Trump derangement syndrome, and you are watching a network in which they have an expert on that is claiming Trump is making all of this up because he's the one who wants chaos and that he is Hitler, what do you think is going to happen? We've got audio from a Democrat congresswoman just hours before the assassination attempt, as well as Joe Biden over the weekend. The New York Times also changing a headline in which they it was a story about J.D. Vance, and it was incorporating Nazism into the headline, of course, because Trump and J.D. Vance are just a couple of Hitler wannabes that are trying to bring Nazism to the United States.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 79. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 62. And for your Tuesday and Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, fall is almost here, and if you have been putting off those roof repairs, now is actually the best time to actually have a roof installed. Since the weather is starting to cool down, contractors are slowing down as well. You get better deals during fall installation and quicker turnaround as well. And if you have been waiting, I do want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. They're good people where their word and a handshake matters. They offer free roof inspections for you, and they also offer military and first responder discounts on new roofs. Whether you need a whole new roof or maybe just a simple roof repair, you can trust that the Pyramid Roofing Company, they're going to get you all taken care of. So if it is time to have the Pyramid team out at your home, go ahead and give Josh and his team a call today. Now you can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Before the news, played audio of a MSNBC contributor that claimed, this was on Saturday, that Donald Trump is exactly like Hitler and exactly like Mussolini. Then, just hours before the second assassination attempt, Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was on MSNBC with Jen Psaki and had this to say.
The problem isn't the people coming in. The problem is this guy and his people here that are doing the bomb threats throughout our country. Domestic terrorism is a real thing, and he is the guy that stokes it.
All right, so Donald Trump is responsible for domestic terrorism in this country. He is, according to Democrats, he is exactly like Hitler. He is exactly like Mussolini, and he is responsible for, I guess there are all these bomb threats all over the country that are happening constantly, not just one random one in Springfield, Ohio from a fed-up citizen perhaps, but all over the country, and it is because Donald Trump is responsible for domestic terrorism in this country. This is what MSNBC is reporting. This is a sitting member of Congress making this allegation. Again, if you are someone who believes what it is that they report on MSNBC, it is not that much of a stretch to recognize that someone is going to decide to do something about it. The New York Times removed a headline of a column critical of Senator J.D. Vance. The original headline, this was the headline of a New York Times story. J.D. Vance's blood and soil nationalism finds its target. Used a term closely associated with the Nazi Party during Hitler's reign of Germany. The use of blood and soil generated an immediate backlash of accusations. The paper tied Vance's America First policies with German nationalism espoused by the Nazi Party. Now, of course, this whole this theme of Kamala Harris's that was launched during the Democratic National Convention, the power of joy, that literally, when translated, was a propaganda push by the Nazis. Word for word. Of course, no comparisons there, no. We saved the comparisons of Hitler to J.D. Vance, to Donald Trump. Speaking of, there was, you've got a coupling here of things that go on. And one of them, we talked about this last week, is the dismissive nature of much of this, as if Trump isn't really human. And so taking him out isn't that big of a loss. In fact, you could be just saving the country in doing so. Shortly after news broke of shots fired near the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Rachel Vindman, the wife of Soviet-born Alexander Vindman, and sister-in-law of Eugene Vindman, the Democratic candidate running for Virginia's 7th Congressional District, felt it was appropriate to make light of the situation, quipping, "No ears were harmed, carry on with your Sunday afternoon." Instead of walking back her tasteless comments when she faced well-deserved backlash for trivializing the assassination attempt, Vindman doubled down. "Sorry you're triggered," she said before adding laugh emojis. I mean, no, I'm not. I don't care a little bit. She later added that Trump is the one who's been inciting violence against his enemies for years. He douses a situation in gasoline, lights a match, walks away claiming no responsibility. Look at what is happening in Springfield, Ohio right now, but he wants to claim he's a victim. You cannot have it both ways. Again, trying to pretend as if Donald Trump amplifying and being a megaphone for the citizens of Springfield, Ohio is somehow him making it up and stirring the pot. Now, you may be wondering now, who is this woman? Her husband was the Soviet-born Alexander Vidman who leaked information about that phone call between Trump and Zelensky, which would be used in order to cover for the corruption of the Biden family in terms of dealing with Ukraine. And instead, they turned it around, more gaslighting in this country, as a reason to impeach Donald Trump. Joe Biden, speaking at an event over the weekend. This is a Black Caucus event, and I think it was at night, so he was doing pretty good.
They're old ghosts in new garments trying to seize your power, and extremists coming for your freedom. Make it harder to vote and have your vote counted. Closing doors of opportunity. Attacking affirmative action and the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Banning books. Erasing history.
All right, so it's more of the same lies and disinformation, claiming that not wanting everything from taxpayer-funded pornography being given to elementary school children is being described as banning books, and falsely claiming that Donald Trump and Republicans are taking away the right of black people to vote. This is a party that continues. In fact, I have a story in which in Georgia, the two minority candidates have been kicked off the ballot by the Democrats. Cornel West, and there's some gal who's of Dominican descent. She is running on the Socialist Party. It is the Democrat Party that continues to kick black people off the ballot, including Crystal Quaid, her attempt to kick a black man off the ballot during her most recent election cycle. But again, if you believe these people, and I know it is hard to imagine that there are people who believe this stuff, but trust me, they do. Because they are in an echo chamber. And they've been told that anyone who says anything otherwise is lying and is a domestic terrorist or a J6er or a Russian asset. They craft a world in which if you do not fall in line and hate Donald Trump and see him as the destruction of our country if he's elected, then you are part of the problem. To them, all of these lies, all of this disinformation is as real as the day. And when you create that environment and when you tell deliberate lies, like Donald Trump said Nazis are very fine people, or you have experts on the airwaves that say that Donald Trump is the exact same as Hitler, or a sitting member of Congress on MSNBC claiming that Donald Trump is the one who is promoting domestic terrorism. What do you think is going to happen? We've seen it twice now. And much like after the first assassination attempt, they did not dial it back. They amped it up. And I suspect we're going to see more of that. And they will continue until their job is done. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Well, let's go to the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. Corbin, welcome to the show. Are you there, Corbin? Oh, there. Hey, Corbin, welcome to the show.
Morning. So, finding it interesting, that, they definitely want to kill Orange Hitler at the end of the day. But you know what? If you want to get right down to it, I mean, we're all Hitler because I have some Trump signs in my front yard, and I had somebody drive at me, and he screamed at me that I was Hitler. I put, I'll put Trump flags in the back of my truck, fly them on the weekends, drive around town. Had some guy want to know where my swastika flag was. We're all Hitler to these people at the end of the day. And eventually, I mean, yeah, they're going after Trump right now. Whenever they go after us, are we going to fight back?
Well, and
that's what I want to know.
It's been done. There was it doesn't get a lot of national attention. Just a few weeks ago, there was a man who, I believe he was in his 70s, putting a Trump sign in his front yard, and somebody deliberately ran over him and then backed over him. He would kill himself afterwards. But we've seen this numerous times. There was the man, I don't know if it was Ohio, but last year or the year before, who he shot or ran over. It was a teenager who was a Republican, and he said it was because he was a Republican. So we're seeing it already. Now, it doesn't get the attention that it would if it was the other way around. I mean, if it was the other way around, it would be national stories. It would be tied into the rhetoric of Republicans and Donald Trump. But as they pick off one by one these Trump supporters, it's just ignored, other than you'll get some local media or, Daily Caller, townhall.com, some of the more balanced news outlets. But we know that the mainstream media outlets are the ones that have the bigger footprint, and they are the ones who are run by the left wing. And so they dismiss those stories because of obvious reasons. And so it is already happening. And this isn't anything new. And what, of course, is very frustrating for so many Trump supporters, and I know that because it's part of what we're hearing, is that the media then turns around and points the fingers at the victims. It's the Trump supporter because you're evil, because you use rhetoric that forces people to react that way. This isn't a new form of division. This is something that human beings have at different times in our history been forced to cope with, and that is a totalitarian regime that uses their authoritarian power in order to demonize the victims in society. The people who are the freedom-loving individuals are the ones who are painted as a danger to the nation, as domestic terrorists or potential domestic terrorists. Look at what this administration did. It came to using the Patriot Act against parents who simply would show up to school board meetings. I didn't reference it, but that thought crossed my mind as we marked September 11th, and it was a day that horrific things occurred, and that Patriot Act was put together in order to address any future terrorist like those that carried out the September 11th attacks. And to think that this administration, in their minds, when you and I see the horrors of what those hijackers did, in the minds of this administration, parents who show up with concerns about their children's education fall into the same category as they do, as the 9/11 hijackers. This is why they used the Patriot Act against the parents. And if you don't like that, they claim you're the problem. And so, as you noted, Corbin, you have dealt with people screaming and yelling at you. And they already, it isn't just Trump that they have been convinced are Nazis. It's half of America. And when you have a president of the United States who stands up, backdropped in red and military personnel, declaring that people who don't support him are semi-fascist, these are the things that occur as a result of that. Corbin, thanks for the call. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 79. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 62. For your Tuesday and your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
I played audio earlier of a Democrat congresswoman accusing Donald Trump of promoting domestic terrorism. She had made some other comments regarding Trump and Ukraine that I wanted to play for you and explain, because it demonstrates a combination of disinformation and also the inability to really recognize how to get things done. And so she's a Democrat Congresswoman, Janine Crockett. I believe she's from Texas. And she said this. She was referencing the debate and something that Trump said or didn't say about the war between Russia and Ukraine.
We can't live this way. This can't be the guy that is supposed to protect us when it comes to people that are coming out against us. This is the same guy that could not say on that debate stage that he wanted Ukraine to win. He could not do that.
All right. So again, you hear the rhetoric here of we cannot allow this guy to be president, which, again, at least two people now have clearly demonstrated they have believed this and felt the same way. But I want to talk about that moment in the debate. And I know the debate was last week, but I think that this is important. And when Trump was asked, do you want Ukraine to win? He didn't answer that. He evaded that. And I think I can imagine, anyhow, that a lot of people, including Trump supporters, like, well, why doesn't he just say yes? Now, my very first thought when that question was asked was, what do you mean win? What does that look like? And that's a serious question. Now, unfortunately, these debates are not set up in order to have that sort of conversation. Structurally, they're not set up that way. And this debate was clearly set up in order to help Kamala Harris win the election. So that honest question would not have been seriously discussed and evaluated. But I think that it is a very good question. To some people, Ukraine winning means that Russia is out of every part of Ukraine, including the Crimean Peninsula, which Putin took during the Obama administration. I'm sure there are a lot of Ukrainians that would view that. That is what winning is. Going back to the way that it was before, in order to demonstrate that you cannot just come in and take parts of our country. There are going to be some people who see winning as just the thing stopping, and they stop advancing from where they are. There may be, in the minds of some, winning is a partial withdrawal. Fine, keep the Crimean Peninsula. It was a gift to us anyway, generations ago from the Soviet. You guys just go ahead. You know, fine, but get out of the rest of Ukraine, the northern part of the country, and that is what some would consider to be a win. So asking the question, do you want to see Ukraine win the war, could mean different things to different people. But this is actually the most important part of it. Donald Trump, I believe, did not answer that question because he recognizes that if he gets elected president, in order for him to be able to get the two sides to come to an agreement to end this thing, neither side is going to want it to look as if the opposition won. And for the purposes of getting Putin to come to the table, along with Zelensky, which Zelensky has said he would do, that he would sit down, if Donald Trump is elected president, he would sit down and work on some sort of agreement that would end all of this. Trump recognizes that if he goes into it and Putin views him as saying, well, my goal is to see Ukraine win, that's going to make it very, very difficult, increasingly difficult, for Trump to get Putin to even come to the table. Because Putin is not going to want to look like Ukraine win, just like Ukraine is not going to want it to look like Russia won. So to be that person who brings people together, he recognizes, understanding human behavior, that as best as possible, he has to be seen as objective. Because if he is seen as being on one side as opposed to the other, then that side, in the mind of the other, is the side who wins if Trump is the one who crafts the agreement. Now, I recognize why this wasn't discussed, and again, the structure of the debates themselves. Plus, you can't, if you say that, then, you're acknowledging, well, yeah, I kind of do want them to win, but I have to pretend as if I'm objective in this thing. And honestly, I don't know that any of that matters to Trump. I don't know if Trump has a definition of winning other than both sides just stop killing each other. And however they get that done, that is a win. It's very, very easy if you are taking this position that, oh, yes, Ukraine has to win, and anyone who says otherwise, like this Democrat member of Congress, who over the weekend used this as an example to attack Trump, to falsely claim that Trump is not going to be protecting us. He can't be expected to protect us because he's not even willing to stand up and say that Ukraine should win this war. That's a very easy position to be able to take because you're not identifying what that win looks like. And at this given point in time, there is nobody apparently that is in a capacity to be able to bring the two sides together in order to try to stop this thing. I mean, right now, frankly, the war is just continuing on, as it always has, with the answer from the United States in terms of leadership being, oh, you want more money to continue doing what you're doing? That's fine. Just ask, we'll just give you whatever you want. That is a much different approach than we have to figure out a way to make this stop. And Trump's way is harder because it requires somebody to bring the sides together, something that at this point they're unwilling to do. They have both sides have signaled if Trump gets elected president, they would be willing to, because, listen, I believe that neither side wants this to continue any further. But at the same time, neither side wants to look like they are the ones surrendering. Neither side wants to appear as if they are the ones who lost this thing. And that's where Trump refusing to take a side in terms of who wins during the debate is helpful in getting there. It doesn't mean necessarily that Trump is going to, he has said he's going to be successful. This is part of who Trump is, having that positive attitude. But the one thing that he understands is how people behave, what their motivations are, how to feed into their motivations in order to get them to do what you want them to do. And picking a side that you want to be a winner is not going to help him achieve some sort of agreement between the two where they're both able to walk away saving face while at the same time ending this thing. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Have you seen the video of Tim Walz's wife at that rally in Wisconsin?
I don't think so.
Well, clearly she's nutty too.
Oh, well, yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, you could tell it from that interview that she did a couple years back whenever they were burning down the cities. And
oh, that's right. And she was really taken in,
yeah, she
during the
said
riots.
leaved all of the windows open so she could smell the burning tires and the city on fire. That doesn't say normal to me.
No, that is not normal. Those are people who lived in a left-wing bubble.
So, okay, what'd she do this time?
She was at, I'll play the audio of it, but the visuals are what is the real demonstration of, I don't know, her weirdness, dare I say. She's talking about how Kamala talked about turning the page, and she physically acted like she was turning a page. And she tries to get the crowd. Here's what she's trying to do. She's trying to create this movement, if you will, in which the motion of pretending like you're turning a page is something that Kamala Harris supporters do all over the country. You can just sense that she's really thinking, I'm going to make this a thing, and this is going to be a real game changer. That they're just really, it's going to be like the ice bucket challenge where everyone's getting in on it because everyone's going to feel connected to one another and everyone is going to be very excited about this. And you could just get this sense that she thinks she's creating something. This is in Wisconsin, and Tim Walz is standing off to her side as she is trying to promote this new thing, if you will.
We're gonna check. We're gonna check and we're gonna check. Because when I see Wisconsin, show me this. Turn the page, right? Turn the page. And you know what else that looks like? Bye-bye.
All right, so she feels like she's really got something going there. I suspect we'll never see this again.
If we do, it'll be very cringeworthy.
Yeah. Now, for those of you who are Kamala Harris supporters, let me explain what a normal person sees here. They see a crowd of people celebrating the idea of turning the page that Kamala Harris has been part of for the past 3.5 years. Everyone is up there mindlessly cheering the idea of turning the page when we've been on their page for 3.5 years. This is their page. Now, the message is right on. Yes, this is where people are wanting to turn the page when it comes to the border situation. People are wanting to turn the page when it comes to the issue of inflation, when it comes to the issue of crime, when it comes to the overall economy. There are a lot of ways. The problem, however, and this is what, just telling you, this is what average people observe when they see Biden-Harris supporters cheering the idea of changing things. This is your mess that you created for all of us. Turn the page to what? You tell a lie often enough, and I suppose you got to give them something in recognizing the level of, I'm just being straight up honest here, ignorance amongst the Democrat voting base, that they finally realized after a couple of years of lying about the economy, claiming that it was wonderful. In fact, I have audio, Joe Biden over the weekend claiming that the economy is better than it was 4 years ago. Tim Walz, the same thing. So it does depend on the audience. But in a larger capacity, for the longest time, with the help of the media, they spread the disinformation that the economy is, it's the best ever, it's doing wonderful. You just don't appreciate how wonderful it is. Same thing with the border. The border's secure. The border's secure. We were told over and over again the border is secure. Well, what they've realized in trying that messaging is that people are not buying it. They just want things back to the way they were before. They want the economy the way that it was 4 years ago. They want the border and border security back to where it was 4 years ago. They want things to go back to a less chaotic place in which the standard and quality of living was higher, particularly for lower and middle class individuals in this country. So what do? They just pretend as if they aren't the problem because they've realized that trying to convince people that things aren't bad isn't working. And they realize with all of the polling that's done, whether it is large-scale polling that is meant to be made public or their own internal polling, that people just do not like the way things are going. So they just come up with the message, all right, well, we'll do things differently than we're doing them. And to see however many people attend a rally and applaud a woman who is campaigning against herself. And I'm talking about the overall Kamala Harris theme here. This particular turn the page audio is from Tim Walz's wife. But to watch supporters of the page we're on cheer when they talk about, yes, we need to turn this page because this page is bad, we need to get somewhere better, you've got to understand, it is a pretty remarkable thing for thinking people to watch. It's very disheartening. It's very disheartening. And I think to a lot of us, it explains the decline of our country that you can have people so mindlessly celebrate the criticism of their own policies and be applauded during doing so. It's not a very positive reflection on our society as a whole. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Two third-party candidates, both minorities, will not appear on the ballot in Georgia after Democrats sued to remove their political opponents. Well, that's just shocking. From the party that's defending democracy, continuing to go state to state to have political opposition kicked off the ballot. Two Fulton County Superior Court judges knocked third-party candidates Cornel West and Claudia de la Cruz off the Georgia ballot on Wednesday. Democrats challenged the candidates, alleging paperwork issues. Now, mind you, this is the same political party that pushes to have votes counted even when what would qualify as paperwork issues, the ballots are not legally qualified to be counted. Every state has their different rules and regulations, particularly when it comes to mail-in ballots, and some states require, a signature be on the outside of the ballot envelope as well as inside, and Democrats continually try to have those laws removed, claiming that it disenfranchises voters or have a judge declare that they should not be followed. But boy, if there are two minorities on the ballot that they claim had paperwork issues to get on the ballot, they do everything they can to boot him off, just like Crystal Quaid. Both West and De La Cruz's campaign said that they would appeal the decision, the Associated Press reports. We've got to get a news update, and I'll fill you in more on this coming up. I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, for all of your home buying needs, your home selling needs, any advice that you may need. There are so many conventional wisdoms when it comes to selling a home that are of a bygone era in the past. There used to be these, well, we got the carpet's outdated. Need to rip up the carpet, put in something new. Maybe not. Before you spend one dime getting your home upgraded, before you even think about adding any different paint or changing out a fixture, first contact Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, because there may be certain things that you think you need to do in order to sell your home or to get an increased price out of it that is not in play in the current market, particularly here in the local area. And there may be some things that you didn't even think about that could help you that really don't take a lot, or maybe you do need to plan for some hefty prices when it comes to upgrading your home and getting things done. But that's where her expertise will come into play, and it doesn't cost you anything in order to get that expertise from her, but I recommend that be step one if you're thinking about selling your home. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. You can find her at ksgf.com under Nick's endorsements. Also at ksgf.com, you can register for your chance to win tickets to Bluey's Big Play. This is something that if you have kids or grandkids, that is probably registering with you. If you're like, who's Bluey? Then you may not need to worry about this so much. But Bluey is very popular with the young. So you've got one that you can speak to this.
Oh my goodness, Bluey's always on at the house.
Cartoon dog, right?
Yes.
Blue one.
Yes. Good job.
Yeah, well, see, I put it all together. So that performance is going to be October 1st at Juanita K. You can get registered to try and win a pair of tickets, again, by going to ksgf.com. Get yourself signed up there. We have slated, coming up here in just a bit, talk with Congressman Burleson, get his thoughts on the second assassination attempt of Donald Trump. Also last week, I know he had posted, that being Congressman Burleson, a video as he was at the jail in D.C. where they have been housing a lot of the January 6th people, including solitary confinement for many of them. And Congressman Burleson was refused entry. They would not allow him in to investigate the current conditions. So we'll get the latest on that as well. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 79. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 62. And for your Tuesday and your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86.
Streaming live, KSGF.com, YouTube as well. That YouTube feed sponsored by Springfield Raps, who designed the KSGF studio. Want to welcome Congressman Burleson to the program this morning. I do want to talk about your attempt to visit the jail in which a number of January Sixers, as they're called, are being housed, and they turned you away. But, of course, yesterday, another assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Increasingly, we're learning more about this individual, and apparently he wrote in June of 2020, tagging Joe Biden's Twitter account, saying that Biden should be called something like KDAF, Keep American Democratic and Free, while Trump's campaign should be MASA, Make Americans Slaves Again Master. Democracy is on the ballot and we cannot lose. So it's much in line with the sort of rhetoric that we continue to hear about Trump being evil, democracy's on the line, and I don't think it's overly surprising to find that this individual has bought in too much of that rhetoric. Congressman Burleson, your thoughts on the latest assassination attempt?
You're right, Nick, that they have been escalating the rhetoric and the animosity and towards Trump from the very beginning. The closer they think that he is to coming back to the White House, the more aggressive they appear to be. They've tried to put him in jail. They've tried to bankrupt him. They try to throw him off of the ballots, and there are liberals who have been trying to assassinate him. At some point, people need to take responsibility for their rhetoric, and the term is often used, reduce the temperature. So, I mean, this guy clearly, as you pointed out, he has a history of responding to and echoing a lot of the anti-Trump rhetoric that he's been hearing.
This obviously isn't anything new. It seems as if perhaps one of the higher profile instances that fall in line with this was the Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer that believed a lot of the rhetoric about Republicans, and they were going to be responsible for old people dying and the planet dying. And he went with that list of Republicans to that softball game. And then you had the left-wing activists that sought out to shoot as many conservative Supreme Court justices as possible, starting with Kavanaugh. And as it's been noted, he ahead of time in Reddit posted that he was going to try to, get as many conservatives as possible in order to stop the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Then you have this again, utilizing the rhetoric that we continue to hear on the left, but and this is what's frustrating, I think, to a lot of Americans that are just sort of normal approach to this stuff but then they point the finger at Trump and claim that he's the one that has the problem with rhetoric. And it's like, it's not Trump's rhetoric that these people are quoting. It's not Trump's rhetoric as they get on social media or write letters to the editor that they're quoting. It's always the rhetoric of the left.
Yeah, and then when the left is trying to use Trump's quotes, they will misquote him, right? So, just in this recent debate, you had Kamala Harris, arguably lie about some of the positions that Trump has taken, some of his quotes. She repeated the lie that he said that people in Charlotte were, that there were good, that the racists were good people, right? That was demonstrably proven to be false, and yet she got away with that kind of lie. When they continue to demonize him, make him out to be the next Hitler, okay, then they wonder why this
right.
kind of anger and aggression is happening. Obviously, and the media has a lot to blame for this as well, because they amplify this every time somebody does, every time there's anything that's aggressive and violent, that's what they air.
Yeah. Talking with Congressman Burleson, if you would tell us a bit about the video you posted last week. You attempted to get into, maybe see just the conditions of the jail that Trump supporters are being held in? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I went to a hearing with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Chip Roy and my friend Josh Burkeen. We heard from the families of January 6th prisoners. We heard from their attorneys, from reporters, people that have been investigating this, and just heard how they've been treated through this process, how whenever they were arrested, a lot of times it was a SWAT team that came in with guns in their children's faces, and then the horrible conditions that they have in the DC jail. And I wanted to see it firsthand. Some people kind of criticized me and said, well, where were you 4 years ago? Well, I wasn't even in office 4 years ago when this happened. But I am here, and I honestly, Nick, I shouldn't be the one leading the charge to try to highlight these individuals as a freshman, but we are. And I've what's frustrating is to hear the stories of people, and you read their accounts, and it's like, this person should not be arrested at all. They peacefully walked into the Capitol building, which I believe they have a right to do, and yet they've been targeted, and the whole thing was all done in a way to really silence you and I, people like you and I, to silence conservatives, and put the fear of God into them, so that they basically continue to be quiet and stay at home.
Talking with Congressman Burleson, there have been a number of fiscal issues. Of course, Kamala Harris has talked about raising taxes on small businesses. She says that she's going to lower them, but when any sort of details about her plan, it indicates otherwise, of course. And then there was a piece, I want to say maybe the Federalist, somewhere recently, noting that just the Trump tax cuts being allowed to expire is going to be absolutely devastating. Oh, there were, I think, 500 business interests or something that all signed a letter about this. And I remember talking about this a year ago, wondering, why is this not something that Republicans under Speaker Johnson now, I think McCarthy was Speaker when I last talked about the importance of this, that this is something that not only is important for the economy to have those tax cuts continued on or made permanent, but it also, as Americans are trying to decide which direction this country needs to go, whether that is a Kamala Harris or Donald Trump as president, I think it's very good for the American people to see where the political parties fall on this particular issue. And so not only the political standpoint, but just the economic standpoint, it's beyond me why this isn't something that the Republican leadership is bringing up and working on right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are frustrating that we're not bringing up. But we've got, the blame is that we have a Biden presidency, and then we've got Chuck Schumer leading the Senate, and so therefore we can't get anything done. The only way to get anything done is to leverage what the Democrats have to pass. So all of these must-pass bills, whether it was the raising of the debt ceiling or the appropriation bill to keep the government open, whether it was the FISA reauthorization or any of the FAA authors, any of the number of bills that have to pass, that's the only train that's leaving the station, and the only way to pass anything that might be helpful to the economy and to Americans. And yet, again and again and again, leadership decides that it's too risky to attach our agenda items or our conservative wins to these vehicles that are these must-pass bills, because they're afraid that whatever we attach is going to kill the bill. Well, at that point, you've already given up the fight. You've already lost the fight. So hopefully, we have a new president, and there won't be any excuse to try to pass a tax cut, to try to fix Obamacare or eliminate Obamacare, to try to fix all of, to try to eliminate the deficit and start paying down the debt. That's my goal.
Well, and this is part of what I would like to see. I recognize that if it came to the Trump tax cuts passing the House, that Chuck Schumer would be a roadblock to that if somehow it made it through there and it was something that Biden would veto. I think that it is important for the American people to see that, because that is action versus talk. As we know, the Harris campaign is out there claiming that they are the ones who are for lower taxes for businesses and for average Americans, middle-class Americans. Well, all right. Well, then let's all come together and extend those Trump tax cuts and let the American people see where everyone falls on that issue, because that, while it may not pass, I think it is important and beneficial for all of us to see where it is that Republicans stand versus Democrats on that.
I totally agree. Make them be the ones that are the villains. Make them take the stand. And so we send over all these bills. We've voted on these bills. But we voted on a bill that extended the Trump tax cuts. That's sitting in the Senate. Chuck Schumer isn't going to bring it up. They're not even going to have a vote.
I think this needs to be made a bigger issue then. I mean, because if that is something I would think that if it has passed and it got sent over there, that there really needs to be some sort of push on this, because people don't know that. They don't know that right now that the Democrats are holding that up. And I don't know the best way to do it, but
yeah, it's back to what I said, is that it's not being covered. It was never covered in the media. They don't cover these, and the only way to get it covered and for them to make a decision is to attach it to a must-pass bill.
Right.
So the strategy that Freedom Caucus members like myself and a lot of the conservatives said is that, this place does the same thing year after year after year. They continue the direction towards a disaster and going over the cliff financially. The only way to stop this is to force a change. And so if you're going to if you're going to raise the debt ceiling, then you've got to cut taxes. If you're going to raise the debt ceiling, then you've got to cut spending, right?
Yeah.
So to force that discussion, and but the problem is that if you're going to do that, you have to have the guts and the willingness to stick to it.
Congressman Burleson, as always, it is a great pleasure, and hope to talk with you next week.
Anytime, Nick. Have a great week.
All right, you do the same. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. I want a great homeloan.com. All of your home loan needs. What about refinancing? Are they dropping those interest rates? They're going to drop them. Does that affect you? Should you refinance? Ultimately, it's your decision, but it's best to have all the information possible when making that decision, and that's where the characters and their team come in, whether it's just starting the process because, yep, you're buying a new home. So you go to iwantagreathomeloan.com to get that started, or if you have some questions about refinancing, perhaps, or maybe you're thinking, should I wait till after the election? Get the expert knowledge from the characters and their team in order to best be prepared to answer that question for yourself. I want a great homeloan.com because you do. KSGF.com, win tickets to see the beloved Bluey. Bluey's big play at Juanita K, October 1st. All the details, and you can get registered for your chance to win tickets at KSGF.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 79. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 62. And for your Tuesday and your Wednesday, sunny skies with a high near 86.
Tim Waltz on the campaign trail, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden at a couple of events. This is Tim Waltz answering questions about the economy, and according to his rewriting of history, the middle class was decimated under Donald Trump.
To Vice President, are Americans better off than they were 4 years ago regarding the economy? She didn't necessarily directly answer that question. I want to give you a chance. What's your response?
Yeah, well, certainly an economy that works for the middle class. Donald Trump has been clear. I'll give him this. The one thing he's been clear about is he promised his rich friends in Mar-a-Lago, he said, you're rich as heck and you're going to get a tax cut. He did that. He didn't. He decimated the middle class. He made it more difficult. He put, more burdens on middle class folks.
Now, there, in addition to claiming that the middle class was decimated under Donald Trump, said, yes, of course, we are better off than we were 4 years ago. That was the original question. So, yes, of course we are. Now, there are a couple of ways to view this. One, he's just saying whatever it is that he has to say in the moment. Two, he really believes it. Which, if that's the case, that means we're going to continue on the path that we're on. Why would we turn the page, as they keep saying, if we're better off than we were 4 years ago? The campaign theme has become doing something different, turning the page, getting past where we are today. Why would we do that if it's so wonderful? Why would we want to turn the page if we are better off than we were 4 years ago? Joe Biden also, over the weekend at an event, making the same claim regarding people being better off.
We went big and we went bold, and yes, the result, yes, we are better off today than we were 4 years ago.
Can you imagine applauding that? What is your definition of better off? What the Democrats have managed to do, which I would argue is not good for the country, is to define better off as our side wins. And that's all that matters. The economy doesn't matter. Border security doesn't matter. Chaos in the Middle East, none of that stuff is how they define better off. Public education, irrelevant. Crime in the cities and throughout the country. Overdose issues because of illegal drugs coming from China, then funneling through Mexico, south of our border, into the United States. When you and I evaluate the question, these are the issues that we take into consideration. Are things better for me and my family? Are things better when I go to the grocery store? Are they better when I pay my rent? Are they better when I pay my insurance? That's how most of you evaluate, are we better off? But Democrats have managed to make it just straight up black and white, are we in charge? If the answer is yes, then we are better off. The other stuff doesn't matter. And they've gotten to where they talk about this. Whoopi Goldberg, who is on a show called The View that ABC lists as a news program, and some others have even verbalized it. Hey, I don't care that it costs you more to go to a grocery store. Don't you understand how bad Donald Trump is? It's usually the rich liberals who say this. This is how you can have, when Joe Biden stands up and says we're better off, yes, we're better off than we were 4 years ago, and a room full of left-wingers applaud, it isn't because they aren't aware of the damage that has been done to this country. It's just their version of that is much different than yours and mine. Theirs is based off of we're the good guys, you're the bad guys. And so if Donald Trump was in charge 4 years ago, that's how we know that we're better off today because he's no longer in charge. That's all that matters to them. We watch the country, the economy, border security crumble around us. 2 assassination attempts. I mean, all of this, to the average person, these are not good signs. This is not better. It's not better for us. It's not better for our children. It isn't better for our grandchildren. But to them, because their side is in charge, that's the only measuring stick that makes any difference whatsoever, which is why you and I, when we hear them applaud the ludicrous line that we're better off than we were 4 years ago, their version of better off, it is for them better off because of where their priorities are and what's important to them. Now, the problem that the Harris campaign has is that most people do not use that same measuring stick. Most people are more concerned about their families than making sure Donald Trump isn't in power. And their decision to campaign against themselves is proof that they recognize this. This is why they continue this turn the page thing, because they recognize that while, again, it's contradictory messaging, but it doesn't seem to matter to Democrat voters. On one hand, you got Tim Walz and you've got Joe Biden out there saying everyone's better off than they were 4 years ago, but then you have, well, we need to turn the page. So they're trying a dual approach here. One for people who only care about their political party being in power, and then the other for the rest of Americans who really genuinely just want to see things better for everyone across the political spectrum. Joe Biden, I believe this is actually at the White House. Let's see where this event was. I believe it was at the White House. And do you know what Joe Biden talked about? He talked about black jobs, which it's my understanding we're all very confused as to what that means. You recall when Donald Trump, during that first, I think it was the debate with Joe Biden, if not, it was somewhere around that time, where he talked about black jobs, and the media and the Democrats feigned ignorance. Like, I don't even know what that means.
I also want to host this brunch because we have progress to celebrate. Together, we're making the most significant investment in Black America in all of American history. We've centered racial equity as the center of everything we do. With your help, in just 3.5 years, we've created over 2 million new black jobs for black Americans and black. By the way, the next black job to be filled is as president of the United States of America.
Oh, so when Joe Biden says black jobs, it's funny and clever. Now, what happened there, it must have been during a period of the day where he was aware enough, he realized what he did. After that, however long that period of time, where they were just really railing, Donald Trump was racist because he used the term black jobs. And what does that mean? What is a black job? I don't know what a black job is. This is very confusing rhetoric that he's using. Joe Biden uses the exact same terminology because it's natural to him, because we all know exactly what that meant. We all know exactly what it means. Jobs that people who are black have. That's what he was talking about. But he caught himself. Oh, and the audience laughed. Isn't it cute? So it's no longer a racist term. And he wasn't using it facetiously. He used it genuinely as a natural flow of terminology. And then he caught himself because he realized that that was part of the talking points, that proves someone's racist if they use the weird terminology of black jobs. And so he had to pivot. I'll give him credit for this. Whatever time of the day it was, that time of the day works for him better than others, because he managed to, with that, of course, it's a friendly audience, but he played off of it. I guess it's just not that offensive after all. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Well, ABC News all of a sudden decided to do a little bit of fact-checking, not to Kamala Harris, but regarding false claims that she made during the debate. And Martha Raddatz on Sunday was the individual doing the questioning, and on the show was a surrogate. This was the Democrat governor of Massachusetts that was there on behalf of Kamala Harris.
Governor, I want to go back to the debate because that was important, and I want to go through a few things that Kamala Harris said. I want to ask you about her comments about the military. She said during the debate this about the U.S. military. Let's listen.
As of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
Our fact checkers found that to be false, and I have a lot of experience in that area as well. There are currently 900 U.S. military personnel in Syria, 2,500 U.S. troops in Iraq. All have been under regular threat from drones and missiles for months. We also have action in the Red Sea. We also, every single day, the Navy SEALs, Delta Forces, special operators can be part of any sort of deadly raid. So why would she make that claim?
Well, I think what's important here, Martha, is that Kamala Harris, in contrast to Donald Trump, demonstrated herself to be commander-in-chief. We are in a world where there are all sorts of conflicts, and it's all the more reason we need somebody who's serious and who supports the military. And just remember,
but Governor, excuse me, but she said there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone. That is not true. You say she demonstrated her ability to be commander-in-chief, but did she not know about these people in Syria and Iraq? Why would she say that?
Look, that was a comment. That was a comment in a debate. I think the point that she was trying to make was a broader point. And of course, we have military in place all around this country. That's important. We're the United States of America.
Can you believe these people?
Don't turn my mic on. I'm mad over here.
I mean, well, good on Raddatz on ABC, not only asking, but then like, okay, hold on here. Did she just not know? Come on. I love how she's listing thousands. It's like there's 2,500 here, there's 900 here.
Yep.
I don't know how this isn't concerned. Well, that was during the debate. Was there? Oh, okay. So, like, what does that mean? That's my follow-up question. So what does that mean? It was during the debate. Are you saying that Kamala Harris was just expected to lie during the debate? What is it also with this desire to pretend as if what is going on with our military is not what's going on? You have Joe Biden falsely claiming during the debate that he was in that for the very first time in the century, there's been no service members who have lost their lives. Well, of course, that clearly wasn't true. Then you have the Kamala Harris debate. It's like every debate, they think, let's see how big of a lie we can tell that is so obviously provably false, and just to see if we can get away with it. And then she claims, despite thousands of troops in harm's way across this world, she's like, this is the very first time in the history of the modern era that we don't have a single troop in any sort of area in which they see any sort of combat. Like, what are you talking about? There's some this posting. What it was posted by someone who is serving. It may be Syria, but it doesn't say for sure. And what you'll hear is audio of, it looks like it's in a tent of some sort.
I almost sent this to you.
Yeah, have you seen this?
I sent it to my husband. He just LOL'd at it.
It looks like about half a dozen or so military personnel, obviously serving overseas. And this is, they're filming as they're watching Kamala Harris make this claim. Oh boy, I mean, the governor of Massachusetts clearly is correct that of these two, Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris, You can see how it is that people, particularly those who are serving overseas, which Kamala Harris apparently doesn't even know about, somehow, even though she's the last person in the room with Joe Biden when it comes to making decisions on what to do with our military personnel, they would feel a great deal of confidence in having her as commander-in-chief. We've got other Kamala audio coming up, and it's further demonstration why it was that it was so key for her to memorize every word-for-word answer during the debate. Kamala Harris this weekend, Congressional Black Caucus Gala.
Hello to all my Divine Nine brothers and sisters and my soror. And to all my HBCU brothers and sisters.
Who wouldn't want 4 years of this?
Why is she laughing so
I don't know.
Oh, she's got a weird accent.
Yeah, that's that accent that. So one story referenced it as a Cajun accent, but I don't know what it was. I don't. I think that she is just bad at doing accents. I don't know what it's supposed to be. She did do a sit-down interview, and this is yet another demonstration why it is that she does not do this. And why it was very, very wise, the approach to just have her memorize word for word answers to regurgitate during the debate. Here she is. This is an ABC News affiliate in Philadelphia. And among other things, she's being asked is, hey, I'm going to bring prices down. Okay, well, you guys really haven't been doing that. In fact, they've skyrocketed during your time in the White House. So what are some of the details of the plan?
Talk about bringing down prices and making life more affordable for people. What are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. She was able to finally save up enough money to buy our first house when I was a teenager. I grew up in a community of hardworking people, construction workers and nurses and teachers. And I try to explain to some people who may not have had the same experience, but a lot of people will relate to this. I grew up in a neighborhood of folks who were very proud of their lawn, and I was raised to believe and to know that all people deserve dignity. And that we as Americans have a beautiful character. We have ambitions and aspirations and dreams, but not everyone necessarily has access to the resources that can help them fuel those dreams and ambitions. So when I talk about building an opportunity economy, it is very much with the mind of investing in the ambitions and aspirations and the incredible work ethic of the American people and creating opportunity for people, for example, to start a small business.
So that's specifically how it is she's going to bring prices down.
I know. Just answer the question.
I love how he just let her hang there at one point where you can hear it a little bit, but if you see the visuals, it's like she gets dry mouth and she gets very nervous. She does that swallowing thing. She did it when she was talking about the lawns. Like, I grew up around people who are very proud of their lawns. You know, he lets it hang there. Let's see. How much time do we have?
Can I fact check Kamala really quick?
Oh, yeah, please.
There are currently 12 naval ships in the Middle East.
Well, that can't be true.
No, it's true.
Because she says that there are none.
There's 5 in the
harm's way.
Mediterranean Sea, right next to Israel, and then also in the Persian Gulf. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Well, that's nitpicking now, isn't it? Here's Kamala on how she is different, how her policies are different.
If there are one or two spots, policy areas or approaches where you would say, I'm a different person.
Well, I'm obviously not Joe Biden. And, you know, I offer a new generation of leadership. And so, for example, thinking about developing and creating an opportunity economy where it's about investing in areas that really need a lot of work. And maybe focusing on, again, the aspirations and the dreams, but also just recognizing that at this moment in time, some of the stuff we could take for granted years ago, we can't take for granted anymore. For example, another plan that I have that is a new approach is to expand the child tax credit to $6,000 for young families for the first year of their child's life, because that is obviously a very critical stage of development of a child. And a lot of young parents need the help to buy a car seat or a crib or clothes for their kids. And so my approach is about new ideas, new policies that are directed at the current moment. And also, to be very honest with you, my focus is very much in what we need to do over the next 10, 20 years to catch up to the 21st century around, again, capacity, but also challenges.
What? You know what would be a fun game to play is where you just air her answer and then people try to guess what the question is. I don't know. Lawn care? The previous answer? That entire answer. He was asking what's different about you? What different? And she's claiming that what is it's brand new, never been tried before, child tax credits. That's something that has existed for a very long time. And she says expand, which she acknowledges that by saying expanding them. And they've been expanded before. They doubled under the Trump tax cuts. Now she's talking about doing it more. But the idea that that is some revolutionary idea, that is not a revolutionary idea. That is something that has been in place for a very long time. And so it's a demonstration that she can't think of anything that really sets her apart from the current administration. Glenn Beck's coming up next. Talk with you tomorrow. I'm Nick Reed.